What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Shady here, and today we're going to be diving right back into 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. Now, I am going to let you guys know beforehand that it'll be probably a good idea to get a snack and a drink and get comfortable, because when I say a lot has transpired within the last couple of episodes, I really mean a lot. And there also has been the introduction of one more couple since my last video. If you guys want to watch that last video, I'll link it in the corner here if you want to catch up before getting into all this madness. First, we have Tiger Lily and Adnan. We have now had some interesting run-ins. They definitely have been butting heads. I do think that Tiger Lily should have done a better job researching things beforehand, understanding what it means being a woman, being a wife in terms of the Islamic faith and also their cultural norms. Okay, what is expected of you. So because she didn't do that, I think a lot of these things that Adnan is telling her that she needs to do and needs to respect, it's new to her, okay, when it shouldn't have been, because she should have probably figured this out beforehand. But now I'm really hoping that she had a prenup together, and also she had an escape plan ready to go just in case, because Lord, I think it's necessary at this point. So I'm trying to remember where exactly I left off, but I think they were going to Petra for their like honeymoon of sorts, and they were still kind of arguing. She had left the car at one point. I don't think Adnan is used to that type of reaction, but she was definitely standing up for herself in that moment because she was like getting tired of the back and forth. But they finally get to Petra. They see the sights, they ride a camel, everything's good. Then the next day, Tiger Lily has to leave to go back to the States. One of the friends, I can't remember if it was the hairstylist, the guy, or the makeup artist. Either way, one of them ended up bringing up that it might be kind of difficult in terms of them being away from each other, because they've already been having issues when they're in each other's presence. So with them being apart again, it might cause some more problems. And I definitely agree. I think distance could definitely make the issue worse. But the fact that he brought that up, I guess, kind of teed off Adnan a little bit, but it did end up being correct, because when Tiger Lily, you know, after her emotional ordeal at the airport, she goes back to the US, and it's been like a month or a month and a half, I guess. Adnan had an issue with Tiger Lily going to the chiropractor because it was a male chiropractor, and he had gone online and saw some videos of these chiropractors. You could tell it's obviously clickbait. They would just specifically film their female clients and focus on their booty jiggling, stuff like that. So now he's thinking that her male chiropractor is going to be the same way, which is obviously not going to be the case, but she's more comfortable with that chiropractor because that's who she knows. But Adnan sees it as it's not a big deal for you to just switch from one chiropractor to another. Just find a female doctor and you'll be fine. And I'm just like, I mean, if you're already used to one doctor, yeah, it's going to be weird for you to just go to another person. She ends up bringing that up to her friend, I think Cruz. He is definitely seeing this as like a big red flag, because she also talks about how when she was not answering him or something, he ended up, I guess, running up his blood pressure or something, and he ended up having to go to the hospital, which seems like a manipulation tactic, if I'm going to be honest. I really don't think it was actually something serious. I think he just was kind of manipulating her, honestly. But regardless, she's now supposed to be going back to see Adnan, but not in Jordan because of everything that's been going on in that area. They're going to Turkey. It's working up to be something pretty interesting, because according to Tiger Lily, this was supposed to be her baby making time with Adnan, and I'm like, I don't know if this is the best time. Her friend is just like, well, what's the rush? It is kind of a rush if they're serious about having kids together, because she is getting up there in age. She is 41. She ain't getting no younger. There is a rush, but at the same time, it's like, I think y'all should probably pump the brakes on that. You need to figure out your relationship issues and then probably revisit that topic. Before she ends up landing in Turkey, I see that Adnan had posted like a steamy, like shirtless pic, she said, and she had told him to delete it. But he's just like, no, I'm a man, I could post this type of stuff. And I'm like, I disagree, because I think if there are conservative values on her end, that there should be conservative values when it comes to your body as well. You should treat your body as a temple and not be showing it to everybody else. So if we're going to be realistic here, even if you're a model, I think he's a model, okay, in terms of his actual job and how he makes money. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if you're going to have that standard for her, I think you should have some type of middle way standard for yourself. That's how I feel. So I'm with Tiger Lily on this one. He should definitely delete it. I don't know if he was just thirst trapping or what, or if that was for his job. I don't know. But in the next episode, you could see that they get to Turkey together and they're not having a good time off the bat. But we're gonna move on to Renee and Chitty. So we kind of left off with Renee arguing with Chitty's sister, and I was like, I don't even understand how you could fix your mouth properly to even argue with this woman after she invited you into her house and also gave up her bedroom for her to have a place to sleep in their house. And also, we see that she made a dinner, regardless of how she feels about Renee after the whole market situation with the chickens. She made a meal for everybody, including Renee. And I'm just like, wow. So you really about to do this, Renee? Her radar and like antennas must be like bent and broken, because I'm like, wow. Wow. Renee, after that argument, she went to the room, she started packing her bag. She also had brought up that, you know, earlier she didn't really get an answer from Chitty about going to a hotel with her. Chitty, in that moment, when she asked the first time, was like, no, I can't do that because it's going to be too much for me, too much temptation to be alone with you. And she's just like, I'm not asking you to like touch me and like for us to be intimate. I just want us to have alone time together. And I'm like, you're not getting it, Renee. That is temptation for him. It does not matter if the intention going into it is not to do that. It could end up happening, and he does not want that to happen. So she is not respecting the boundaries, and it's getting very irritating. Again, when she's packing up, she brings up, you could come to the hotel with me. Like, do you want to go? Are you choosing me? Are you choosing your family? I just think it's so crazy that we even reached to this point, but at the same time, because it's Renee, it makes sense. It's so frustrating because they literally did so much for this woman. She's just standing there disrespecting his sister. And you can see that he has the utmost respect for both his sister and his brother-in-law. He literally refers to them as ma'am and sir. So it's just very irritating that she just treats them in that manner, and at the same time just expects Chitty to just go along with what she wants. Obviously, they did not let him leave as a blind man, okay? They did not let him leave and go to a hotel with someone that you could clearly see is unstable in that moment. And she ends up leaving, going to the hotel, she's crying, and she said some really cringy things. She was like, I know he can't see me, but you know, he could see my heart. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, Renee, sure. But after that, she ends up at the hotel, and Chitty's sister and brother-in-law try to have a conversation with him about that, and it's just pretty much asking him like, are you really trying to reignite things with Renee, or is this the end of it? But even though they do not want him to get back together with her, you could still see that there's a lot of love there from at least his sister, where she's just like, even though I don't want him to go back to her, I would much rather him just have that experience and figure it out for himself. So I'm just gonna let him do whatever he wants to do. And I think that's just very loving and respectful of a person to do. Even though it's painful for you to see that, they kind of have to make that decision on their own. So good on her. But when we see Renee in the hotel room after the whole situation that blew up with Chitty and his family, she still is in la la land. She's just like, you've been texting and I just still feel rejected. And then we find out more about her dating history. Apparently her daughter's father had ended up just waking up in the middle of the night when she was pregnant with her, just leaving. Then after that, she had ended up hooking up with like drug addicts and all this stuff. And I was just like, wait, what? All the subsequent men in her life just let her down. It's also because she wasn't really choosing correctly either. But I think when it comes to Chitty, he sees being with her as like staying with her so that she doesn't feel alone and rejected. But at the same time, Chitty, you can't put that on yourself. You have to make a good decision for you. You can't just keep living for everybody else. I just think that Renee is kind of delusional. She was in a hotel room wearing lingerie, and this man clearly said he was trying to keep the physical stuff at bay for right now. Like, he is celibate, all right? And she just is not getting it. And she also referred to his faith as a false faith, mocking his religion. And I'm just like, Renee, this is not how you get back on the right foot. This is not how you get back on the right track with Chitty. But I really respect that Chitty, even though he still loves her, he also realizes that that disrespect that she had for his family, like, he can't stand that. And if anybody treated my family like how she did, oh, you was hitting the road. The fact that he's even still entertaining a relationship with her, he's a saint, honestly, because she would have been gone. But even Chitty's friend tries to sit him down, and it's just like, listen, yeah, you gotta do what's best for both of y'all. If being separate is gonna be better, that's what y'all might have to do. So that was a mouthful, but let's move on to Lauren and Faith. So Faith is still dealing with the craziness that Lauren kind of unloaded onto her about the whole gonorrhea thing. And you could see that she's kind of torn and is questioning what she wants to do moving forward when it comes to their relationship. Lauren, I think, kind of picks up on the fact that he did make a mistake, but at the same time, I don't really think he understands how bad he hurt her, because he keeps bringing up that they don't have time, they don't have enough time. And I'm just like, sir, you're lucky you're even still here. You're lucky she's even still talking to you, okay? And the fact that she's taking you to meet her family still, like, buddy, I'm just saying, you was not meeting my family. I can tell you that. But Faith was like, listen, I'm just gonna put you in the friend zone for now. But Lauren kept trying to test that. He was like, oh, could I kiss you? Oh, could I hold your hand? And Faith is just like, no, don't touch me. Like, just stay still. You are my friend, okay? That's how I'm gonna introduce you to my family, as my friend. So calm the hell down. Before they end up meeting her family, I think they wanted to spend like a day just by themselves, and they're at the beach, they're having a good time. Lauren starts to give her like a foot massage or something, and they start talking about her family and how she had to be kind of like the breadwinner after her father died, and she has to like try to send money back to her family for them to survive and live off of. And there's a lot of responsibility there, and there's a lot weighing on her shoulders. And Lauren, I think he kind of takes that as the opportunity. I think this was when they were on the bus or something going somewhere. He was like, would you like that if like I came to be in the Philippines with you, and also like I was able to purchase your family a nice house? Like, wouldn't you like that? Like, it was just so weird. I think Faith was kind of picking up on that weirdness too. She was like, well, why would you look that up? It was, I think, her way of saying like, please shut up. You're in the doghouse. You're in the friend zone. You're not helping your case right now. So that's where they're at. They haven't met Faith's family yet, but he does ask her if she's gonna bring up the whole gonorrhea thing to her family, and she's just like, I don't know. I really don't think she should say that in the first go. I think she should probably wait, but at the same time, I wouldn't blame her if she does say something right out the gate. But it probably would make things very awkward, understandably. Let's move on to Brian and Ingrid. After Brian decided to randomly show up at Ingrid's house in the middle of the night like a creep with some flowers and some toys for her kids, I did find out that she has another child, but I only ever see one of them. After that weird ordeal, he leaves, and the next day they do end up having like a little mini vacation. They're having a good time. It seems as though Brian is really trying after dropping so much information on her that she didn't really know. After that, they seem to be in a good place for a little bit of time, like a measly bit. And then Brian goes to meet up with Ingrid's friends. He doesn't really give off the best impression, if I'm going to be honest, because they do start talking about like sex and intimacy and stuff like that. And Ingrid, you could tell she's getting a little shy, a little coy, because she's just like, calm down. Like, I don't want to talk about this right now. But you could see that Brian is trying to like lean into it because he really wants to get intimate with Ingrid, and he keeps like talking about it. And he says something to the effect of, oh yeah, I used to sleep with women on the first night. I'm just like, Brian, shut up. Like, shut up at this point. Be quiet. After that, they go back to the hotel that Brian is staying at, and you could see that I guess Ingrid wants to try to get intimate with him, but he's trying to make her comfortable. He also, strangely enough, had lingerie for her, which is a little strange, but after watching 90 Day Fiancé for so long, it's almost not that strange. But at the same time, it is a little odd for you to just kind of assume you're gonna have sex on this trip and you bring lingerie, right? But the thing is, the problem is, after the crew leaves to give them their space for them to do whatever they want, they end up having an argument. Apparently, Brian brought lingerie but didn't bring condoms. And obviously you're not gonna have sex with someone that you just met for the first time, okay, in person, and not have any protection. I totally understand Ingrid in that position. She's just like, yeah, hell no, we're just gonna pump the brakes on that. But Brian, without even asking, according to Ingrid, just decides he wants to go downtown to give her a little bit of, you know, mouth action. And she's just like, what are you doing? Like, you have to ask me first. Like, hold up now. He saw it as her rejecting him, and he was trying to give her a present, so to speak. Like, it was supposed to be his present to her. And it's just like, that's a very intimate part of my body. Right now, I just don't know if I want that, right? And Brian is just taking it as like, oh, something else is going on. And he keeps, again, making things about himself, and it's so annoying. Finally, the next day, after Ingrid leaves the hotel and Brian is now trying to seek some type of sympathy or pity Chitty from his sister. He calls the sister and asks her in terms of like how things went down, like what she thought about the situation. And she's just like, yeah, that's a very intimate part. I think you should definitely ask before you do something like that. And he's just like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about that. And I'm like, yeah. She might have been interested, but don't just assume. It was really interesting watching Ingrid try to explain the situation. She was making all type of faces. It was hilarious. She seemed a little too eager, like he was kind of like a caveman almost. And I do think this entire trip, even though he's literally only been there for a week, I think he's just been pushing way too hard to get what he wants out of it, which is the sexual component. And you could see that Ingrid is not ready for that just yet. And on top of that, when you had the chance, you didn't even remember to bring protection. Wild. Shortly after this, I think this is maybe like a day or two after, they end up meeting up together. Brian apologizes. He's getting emotional, but I honestly think it's just him being kind of manipulative, if I'm going to be real. I don't think he actually feels any like deep remorse for what he did. I think he just wants to get the show back on the road and just keep it pushing so he could finally get what he wants. He starts crying. He's like, yeah, respect is a big thing with me, yada yada. And Ingrid seems to be accepting of his apology, and then after that he asks if before they go to another part of Brazil for a little mini vacation, if he could meet up with her parents. And she is very adamant, like, I don't think you want to do that. My parents are really tough. And Brian just keeps pushing the issue. He's just like, please invite them. I want to meet them. So she's just like, all right, fine. She begs, literally has to beg her mother to even come to her house to meet Brian. But according to Ingrid, her dad had to work. But I honestly think the dad just used that as an excuse to not come. I don't think he was interested in meeting Brian at all. But the mom wasn't really any different. I think she was physically there, but mentally checked out. She barely wanted to make eye contact with Brian. It was so weird. He tried to give her a gift, like a bag or something, and she's just like, okay, thank you, but you're not gonna buy my affection. Like, what is this? He keeps trying to force conversation with her, and Ingrid finishes the lunch. She sets it out on the table, and they try to eat together. Her mom is just adamant about not eating with them. And Brian's just like, wow, I didn't think anyone had the audacity. Oh, I almost passed out when Brian said that. I didn't think anyone had the audacity, okay, or could be that rude to not sit with me and eat. And I'm just like, wow, Brian, so she doesn't have a choice to not like you? I can see obviously how that's very rude, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's like, Brian, not everyone's gonna like you, you know? I think, again, he keeps going back to, I wonder if it's because of my wheelchair. I wonder if it's because of this. And it's just like, maybe she just doesn't like you because of another reason. I don't know. You have to also think about it in terms of reading the room. This man, noticing that things are awkward, again, he still tries to continue having a conversation after the lunch that she didn't want to eat. And she's in the kitchen still, and he again tries to talk to her, and it's just like, I'm gonna be taking her on vacation in like a day or two. And you could already see the mom getting kind of like uncomfortable and agitated. And then he continues and says, oh, I also want her to eventually come to the States to be with me. And I'm just like, sir, you could already see her getting uncomfortable about you just taking her a couple cities over in the same country. Why would you talk about her leaving the country and going to the US to be with you? Like, again, he kept asking for like hugs, and I was just like, please stop trying to force this woman to hug you. But we find out from the mom directly. She says from her mouth that she doesn't really think anything good when it comes to Brian, because she wants her child, her daughter Ingrid, to stay with her where she can be with her in person. At the same time, it gets even worse, because right before the mom leaves, we hear Ingrid say that she sometimes has to lie to her dad because of how protective he is over her. But Brian, he keeps pushing the issue, and it's just like, well, aren't you in your 30s? Aren't you a grown woman? Like, you should be able to do whatever you want. I'm just like, Brian, shut up. The mom is still there. Have this conversation when it's just you and Ingrid in the house. At least wait until she leaves. Like, it just was not, it was not a good first impression, not a good first meeting. I just don't know how that's going to work out if Ingrid's parents do not approve of him. I just don't know how that's going to continue to be a relationship or anything worth pursuing. We have Via and Sunny. Remember in the last video where we literally talked about Via bringing her ex-boyfriend Rory to go see Sunny in South Africa, and even her friends were like, yeah, nah, that's not a good idea, but she continued, and and decided to bring him anyway. Yeah, so now that's coming to a head because reasons that we're gonna get into real quick. We left off with Via at the hotel room with Sunny. Where the heck Rory is, we don't know, but obviously he's somewhere in South Africa because he came on the same plane with her. And they also apparently took pictures, but we're gonna talk about that in a minute. So you can really see that Sunny is really trying his best to put in a lot of effort into making her stay in South Africa really nice. He tries to take Via on a date and they go down this canal or like a river or something, I don't know, but it's really romantic and sweet and he's really trying. When the camera's kind of cut for a second, we come back and we see that Via is now chasing after Sunny. It's kind of dark outside and we hear from Via that they ended up, I guess, after the whole boat ride, they sat on the steps somewhere and they were just, you know, chilling out, hanging with each other. Sunny looks over and sees that Via is constantly texting someone and he's asking her like, who are you texting, who are you texting? But she doesn't answer the question, so he just kind of rips the phone out of her hand and he sees the photo of Rory and Via in the plane together coming to South Africa. And Via finally comes clean and tells him, yeah, Rory is here. I brought him because I didn't really feel completely safe flying by myself. And she kept saying that she wanted to find the right time to tell Sunny, but at the same time it was like, there is no right time. Either you tell him now or he's gonna find out on his own. And he ends up doing that. And I knew he was gonna blow up, and rightfully so. But they end up getting into a car together and they're now heading back to the hotel because he wants to go get his stuff and just leave. But they try to have a conversation. Sunny's just like, you know, I'm trying to understand you, but at the same time, like, there's no trust. Like, you don't trust me. We don't trust each other. Like, what is going on? Why wouldn't you tell me this beforehand? Obviously, I'm not okay with you bringing him, period, but you should have at least told me before I found out myself from seeing a picture of you guys together in your phone, and you're also texting him. Even after he says all of this, Via has the audacity to turn around and say to him, oh, I wasn't even talking to him that much. Via, it doesn't matter. Why is he here? But they get back to the hotel. He's still very gentleman-like. He opens a door for her. They get to the hotel. He's not doing anything absolutely crazy. She made it seem like he was like yelling and screaming and, you know, like he has some major anger issues. But I think he is right where I would be if I was in that situation, except I think his demeanor was a lot calmer than I would be if I found that out. They get to the things up. She's trying to talk to him. She's just like, let's meet in the bathroom. Let's go to the bathroom. Let's talk. And you could see that Sunny is just like tapped out. The producers or whoever was in production was asking Via when she was in the hotel by herself, like, do you think you guys have like broken up? Like, is this the end of the road for y'all? And she's just like, I don't know. It went down exactly how I thought it was going to. We're just gonna move on to Niles and Matilda. So Niles decides before he wants to tell Matilda that he wants to call off the wedding. This is now several days into his trip in Ghana. You could see that he's very anxious about how much money he's spending. He also like sends her to go get her nails done. He uses that opportunity to buy a ring for her and he proposes again. He puts the ring on her finger, but he forgets that the plan was to give her the ring and then tell her that they needed to postpone the wedding. But he forgets. Later that night, they end up going to dinner. He finally tells her that they're gonna need to postpone the wedding. And she's just like, are you playing with me right now? Like, you are disgracing me. Anger is totally understandable in this moment because he had so much time. She already had 200 guests coming, her pastor, family, everybody, and that is embarrassing. But now they're trying to talk things through after she kind of calms down a bit, and Niles tries to gaslight her. He's just like, well, did I ever say to you directly that we're gonna get married on this trip? Like, did I ever say that? And she's just like, is this a prank? Like, what is this? You can see that he was most definitely trying to gaslight her, trying to use semantics to get out of taking any type of accountability for his actions. And now she has everything planned and it's just like, well, this is embarrassing. You could have said something months ago, but you didn't. Even the producers had to come in and step in and be like, Niles, that doesn't really match up to what you've been telling us this entire time, that you hadn't told her yet. So he finally realizes that he has to come clean and just be truthful. Like, yeah, I messed up. I should have said something earlier. And she's just like, okay, well, when are we going to get married? Are you going to do the knocking ceremony? Because after we had the knocking ceremony, usually you're supposed to get married just a couple of weeks after that. But now it seems as though he's going to do the knocking ceremony and it's going to be a pretty long period before he comes back to Ghana to marry her. But he says that the ring is supposed to kind of be a symbol to her to show her like, yeah, I'll be back. But at the same time, it's like you could see that there's a big cultural divide because the ring in Ghana like, it's a nice gesture. It's more like a, you know, just a representation that, yeah, you are possibly going to be taken, but it's more so about like the knocking ceremony and the traditions that people really take you serious as like, okay, you're gonna get married. But for him and in American culture, that engagement could last like years. They take the ring a lot more seriously. I think that it's going to be interesting to see if Niles actually comes back to Ghana like he's promising Matilda to come back and marry her. But in the next episode, we see that Niles is coming back to meet up with Matilda's family, and I just don't know how this is gonna go. I really don't. I don't know how he's gonna make it, and if they're actually gonna take him seriously and be okay with him just coming back to Ghana a second time and then marrying her. But we're gonna move on to our last couple of the video, which is gonna be Vana and Bojo. But Vana is 41, she's from Florida, and Bojo is 38, he's from Croatia. So it seems as though they do have a little bit of a history. They had found each other on a dating app. This was years after she had a dray load of kind of bad investments when it came to men. Vana apparently was engaged at one point years ago, and she found her fiance making out with a girl in his house. So that definitely caused her a great deal of pain for a good amount of time. One of her friends even had mentioned that she doesn't really make good decisions when it comes to men. But we also see that Vana is kind of interested in a lot of different things at once. She's a vegan baker. She does sales in what? I can't entirely remember. She also is like an entertainer on like the dancing side, and then she does like fire breathing and stuff like that. I forgot what all she mentioned, but those are all that I could remember. It was a lot going on. But when it comes to Bojo, I think he just plays basketball. I think he had played professionally for a time, but now we find out that he currently does not have a job and he lives with his mother and auntie. So he does have like some insecurities about that, and he and Vana, they were talking to each other. I think at one point or another, Vana decided to go and visit him in Croatia, but he ended up ghosting her. I texted her later saying, oh, I wanted to pursue things with my ex-girlfriend and we're just gonna see that through. I'm not really interested in pursuing things with you anymore. So that was an interesting situation, but I guess a little while after that, he decides, oh, you know, I'm just gonna continue pursuing things with you again because things didn't work out with my ex. It's very interesting that even after that, she still wants to go see him again. So she plans another trip and she's getting ready for that. She's coming over and again, he ghosts her. He doesn't say anything when she's messaging him. She's like late for her flight. She misses her flight, has to get it rescheduled. She's going through all of this turmoil, and this entire time this man has not messaged her or called her. But he finally picks up and now they're meeting up. But we find out before they meet up that Bojo has not told his mom or family members that she even exists. So that was very interesting. But before he gets to the airport to pick her up, he finds a plant, a potted plant in the garbage, like the dumpster somewhere, and he just decides to give it to her as a gift. Yeah, and the plant did look kind of wilted, but she was happy. But it was really awkward when they got to Vanya's like hotel slash Airbnb, I guess, but where she was staying for the rest of her trip. She was kind of hoping that he would stay, but she could kind of tell that he's kind of all over the place. Like, she's not really sure what he's comfortable with. Hold on, I'm jumping over a scene. They actually, before that, had gone to some type of cooking lesson for like a mini date. And when the other couple that was in the cooking class had asked them like if they were together, like boyfriend, girlfriend, like what type of relationship this was, he's just like, oh, she's a really good friend or a special friend or something like that. And I was just like, yikes, okay. And Vanya's just looking at him like, I'm not coming all this way for a friend. Like, I'm not your friend. Like, what? So Bojo tries to make another joke because Vanya keeps saying how funny he is. He looks at the other couple and is just like, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. We're actually married. You know, I left my ring in the car. Haha. And I'm just like, Bojo, please. So they get to, you know, Vanya's place because of that whole situation being labeled as a friend. She kind of didn't really know what to expect from him and where they stood with each other because that was weird. But she tries to offer him the couch and he's just like, yeah, no. I'm just gonna go back to my place, my mom's place, and, you know, you have a good one. And it's just so awkward. I don't really know where you could go from there after being labeled as a friend. I don't know if he's really taking this seriously. And on top of that, he has that insecurity of not having a job. And you could see that Vanya, after doing everything that she's doing, like she's able to afford a lot. And he's just kind of insecure about not being able to match up to her standards. But it's like, do you even know what her standards are? Do you even know what her thoughts are with regards to this? Like, you don't know anything. Y'all let me know what what your thoughts are about all of this madness. I know this was a pretty lengthy video, but y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.